But Anthony and his 4 bloodhound friends are escaping her webs. They see her crystal cells in which she locked these souls up, to be the fuel for her communication systems, her talkativity. But they are escaping. In their golden balls, they escape her crystal cells. In their vibration they can float out of everything. They are heading for the exit. They are in the tall temple of the White Rabbit, heading for the throne, where the White Rabbit, the old lady, has a solar crown on her head. They need to steal it, and then her throne will melt away. Through that gate they will escape. But it looks like they travel and travel, but the throne hall is so large. It seems like it's taking an eternity. 5 golden balls are floating to the enormous throne in the distance. They fly faster and faster, but it's like everything slides away. Even the view. They know they need the Viewmaster. This is all a trick of View. She's sitting there, with her brother, the one who carries a Viewmaster, an electric eel. She's sitting there with the golden fly, a short, tanned old man with a white beard. She loves him. It's her best friend. He has a cult on Vega South, the cult of the golden fly. She loves it. She's proud of him. He's carrying the Viewmaster, manipulating the views of others, to bring all suns back to their prisons, to cut all sunflowers. It's a strange cult. The electric eel is their father. He has an old hourglass in which he gathers all the sun fields and let them fall through the 3-dimensional earth funnels to catch the souls as fuel for their own suns. He does it by using time, and by changing their points of view. It's an old liar, a liar from Vla. It was like they knew everything about the cycle of the butchery. They wanted to keep souls locked up in 3-dimensional wheels of reincarnation, for meat and fuel. The powers of reincarnation were the motors of their mills. A bell was ringing. It was dinner time, and once in a while the 3 would dine together. They were talking about Anthony and the other bloodhounds. Another bell was ringing, and some other friends came in. They discussed about what to do. The most strange creatures came in. They were uniting all their powers. They all realized what it would mean when Anthony and his friends would escape from the hourglass. Suddenly the golden balls started to connect to each other, and it became an enormous burning sun, so overwhelming that it was burning the Viewmaster away. It was growing out of the hourglass, and the whole dining room started to come into flames. Enormous explosions took place, and Anthony grasped the solar crown from the White Rabbit's head. When he put it on his own head, lightning and thunder was swallowing the room with all its strange visitors. But now the White Rabbit was really mad. She turned into an enormous wasp and started to sting the burning sun. She was flying to the butchery, but it was already in fire. Millions of souls were being released. She started to scream harder than ever before, and Anthony's ears were exploding. He became deaf, but he could tune into higher communications now, and again she could reach him on that vibration, making so much noise and so sharp that he felt again like his ears were exploding, and this time it penetrated him so deep that his skin got ripped off. Millions of flies and other insects started to attack him, and he was now extra sensitive. But he felt he was in the cocoon. The lights were so bright that all layers of his vision were ripped off one by one. It exploded, and he could come into deeper visions. His eyes were burning now, and spitting fire. This was a wild cocoon. Suddenly he felt he stood before her throne, and he could see it exploding. A black gate was lying before him. When he went through, he saw all her solar fields and communication webs. He could transform them by his eyes. He could sting through every picture now to see what is lying behind. His eyes were free now, not bound by a picture anymore, not bound by a Viewmaster. His ears weren't bound by a sound anymore, but he could sting right through them. His solar crown started to work, producing his own sounds, and in the middle his own Viewmaster started to rise, producing his own visions. He could embrace all the little souls now. He could reach for his higher skin now. This skin could sting through all feelings and other skins. To feel what's going on. He could feel a golden skin now. And feeling the sunflowers grow. Higher and higher. He got an Egyptian eye on his forehead now. An eye surrounded by sun rays. He saw a picture of a Jesus Christ with bleeding eyes. Roaring like a lion. But new visions started to flow through him. While the blood drips which hit the ground started to become sunflowers. And there he saw this cross growing in the sunflower field. Like a ladder to the moon. While so many children were climbing the ladder. But then he saw the ladder breaking and the children started to cry so loud that the ears of the Jesus Christ started to bleed. And Jesus fell on the ground. While changing into a cobra. Eating so many children. Anthony was shocked. But a voice spoke. You can never say you weren't warned. And Anthony started to remember about the spies. So many souls are just from another enemy. He started to think about the other 4 bloodhounds. Who would they be? He found himself standing before seas of fire. The voice was speaking. You need to swim through these. Anthony dived in and realized that so many more visions were exploding, so many more dreams. While he was reaching for higher vibrations, everything needed to be sifted. All his visions and dreams. And he swam further and further, feeling all his senses were cleansed by these fires. More and more he got a solar body. Leaving Earth alone. The white rabbit was suddenly swimming before him like a shark. She wanted him back. And a fight started in which he thought he would lose everything. And like all his worlds were tumbling down. What was raging in his bones? It would rage until he was in the finest vibration. In the highest fires. He didn't have any grip anymore. And he was coiling and spinning. Like he was falling from high mountains. Diving on rocks. It was like everything broke inside. And something was having dinner on that. The white rabbit. Or was it a white shark? He stretched out to higher suns. The light too bright bringing him new pictures. Transparent pictures. The sounds too loud bringing him new sounds. Soft ocean sounds. The fires too hot bringing him a new skin. New bones and senses within. He was reaching out for new communications. He wanted to swim to the edge. To the ultimate limit. And then dive. He wanted to know the secret of the white rabbit. It was like a million of oceans were exploding. And a million of suns. And he was looking right into the eyes of the most horrible creature he ever saw. What would be behind of this all? Suddenly Anthony woke up in sweat. He was wet all over. Even his blankets were. Something was making him so wet. These were supernatural powers. And he felt so much heat. He could feel all the poles rippling over him. Like waves. He knew the white rabbit was keeping some things hidden. When he fell asleep again, he had a dream about Zamzam walking on water. But suddenly his sunken fishes were eating his eyes out of him. It was also written in the Bible that Zamzam's eyes were pierced by Philistines. Suddenly he saw all the lost souls in biological cells as fuel for solar eyes. They used them for their viewmasters. But Anthony thought he already dealt with that. In that dream the white rabbit was eating eyes. And then these blind souls were being led to her eyes. Her fields of eyes. Where they were locked up in wheels, turning around. Every sense they got was being transformed into a picture. And by these they were getting brainwashed. The painful emotions were being connected to certain pictures. And by these pictures the emotions got stronger. They were getting conditioned by cruel feedback systems. But Anthony thought he already dealt with it. And he became very emotional. He got the pictures of his earlier dreams thinking he already dealt with it. While the other pictures were confusing him, feeding his emotions up. The pictures were growing on both sides. While the emotion rose and tore him apart. He felt such a rage now. He felt emerald eyes coming in his head. While he was using the white rabbit as fuel for these eyes. He tore her already. His rage was tight in this. He now started to realize that if he wouldn't use her, she would continue to use him. There was an unknown rage in him, tearing her kingdom apart. If he wouldn't do it, she would tear him again. He didn't want to be her prey anymore. Maybe he just had to tear her deeper, for he still felt her breath in his neck. Crystal eyes were in his hands, intensifying his touch. He wouldn't let her do it again. But she did it. It was like it was technology against technology, and his rage was breeding him into an indifferent killer cyborg. The pain made him numb, like a statue, but he was programmed to sense and destroy her. He knew if he wouldn't destroy her, she would destroy him. He had derided her, for if he wouldn't do it, she would ride him. The choice was easily made, but something was ripping him inside, and his rage was getting like never before. He almost became hysterical. Where was it leading him? She lived inside of him, and he couldn't get her out. She lived in a diamond shell. He couldn't reach her. This made him almost insane. It was like a microchip he couldn't break. Technology too high, too deep. He wondered what for a project would be below all these cellars he saw. It was like he was in a sort of temple now. She was breeding all sorts of clothes here. Shoes, jackets, trousers, etc. But also body parts, like arms, legs, livers and hearts. But all these objects were alive. They were in sections. She was a healer. She was a tailor. But what she created were parasites. Anthony got the shock of his life. He screamed, "No, no." For he started to see that even in birth, body parts were gathered in a sort of factory, and in this web of parasites called body, a soul was implanted. And the parasites would suck until the body would be dead to be in a row for another reincarnation. This woman was sick. Many healers on earth were nothing but her agents. She was a healer of parasites. She was a profit hunter, wanting to deceive and destroy the bloodhounds. She was writing her Bibles against them. She was a goddess of sleep, of medicines, letting the parasites do their jobs. She designed all his dreams. She designed all his masks. For Anthony himself was a high member of the conspiracy. A spy. A golden key. He was her agent on earth. To infiltrate the bloodhounds, the persecuted prophets. To deceive them by lacquered dreams. Truths with a few drips of lies. Captivating their heads. Drawing them closer and closer to the fields of everlasting damnations. The fields of the White Rabbit. The end.